How cruel. There you are. Ciao, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing? Sorry about that. I was stuck in the Zoom technology black hole.
Hello. Ciao, Sarah.
Good evening, ciao.
We're all here. I really wanted to say thank you, Anna, for that lovely introduction. And of course, I'm reiterating the huge thanks to Francesco for spending his evening with us when, as you rightly say, he's probably a little bit shattered, having been in the vineyards all day and doing a huge amount of work in preparation for harvest. However, these are some of our most popular Italian wines, and I'm really delighted that you've joined us tonight to hear all about them from Francesco himself. They offer a real richness of Southern Italian flavors, but they also are very balanced. These are some of the most balanced Southern Italian wines that I ever taste each year. And I'm really excited that they're also working with negroamaro and bringing that to the fore, which I think will be a really interesting discussion tonight with Francesco. I'm actually drinking the Flaminio Rosso, although I have my Salice Salentino here ready for Monday. And so I hope you're enjoying whichever wine of Francesco's you've chosen to open. And I won't delay us too much further. I'm going to hand over to Francesco so that we can run through the introduction to the wines, and then we can have lots of questions towards the end. So please do send us your questions. I know that Catherine and Anna and Tim backstage are going to be filing them away and making sure that we get through as many as possible. So, Francesco, good evening.
Hello, Sarah. Good evening. Thank you very much for your invitation. I mean, it's a chance. There's no other way for us today to get in touch with our friends, with our potential customers, and with you. So it's a pleasure. I mean, even at midnight, I would be glad to meet you and talk with you. Today in my glass, I have the Brindisi. It's a negroamaro. It's a DOC Brindisi Rosé. 2019, obviously, and I've chosen the wine because it's suitable within the season. At least in the south of Italy, it's very hot. It's the sun is very high, so this wine is perfect when you are out, when you go outside with your friends, and you can pair it with fish, with meat, with pasta. You can also drink it by itself during an aperitivo. So today I choose the rosé wine.
No, a great. Yes, I've been running out of rosé all summer. I think especially in the conditions where we're all staying in a lot more, such lovely weather, we've all been finding some summer joy in rosé this year.
Very good. I hope that you have a small garden, or that you can at least go out in a small park.
No, I'm a central London apartment, so I pop down to the local. There's a sort of private garden, small park nearby, which I have been sitting and sipping rosé in illicitly out of a tumbler most evenings.
Okay.
Hey-ho.
Well, usually living in central London is like a huge opportunity, as it is. But during these situations, I believe you're missing the landscapes. No, you're missing the green color of the nature. I think we will get over this. I hope.
We will, for sure.
So.
Yeah, I'm going to say in my introduction, I enjoyed so much coming to see you in Puglia last year, and I really hoped to come again this year, but I'm already looking forward to now visiting next year, and I have my fingers crossed that travel will be back on as normal at some point next year. So
I hope, because for your job is fundamental to travel. What I say to our friends today. When Sarah comes in a company, everybody's like very anxious and stressed because Sarah is precise. She has a profound knowledge, profound culture of the wine. So it's like a test. It's like a benchmark test. When she comes. So for her, it's a joy. But the first 10 minutes for us, it's like, okay, but let's be careful.
I'm sure that's not the case.
No, I know. We had fun together also. I understand this.
Indeed.
So I see that we put together a small presentation. I'm sorry if there's not like many media content. Anyway, we are a family winery. We have been founded in 1935. My grandfather And the objective of, so we are in Puglia and we are in the Salento Peninsula. This means that when you look at Puglia, we are in the extreme south of Puglia. It's like the heel of the boot, in order to be like figurative in understanding where we are. We are surrounded by two seas, the Ionian Sea and the Adriatic Sea. This has a clear effect on the microclimate. Anyway, the intent of our company when it was founded was to produce bulk wine for the French market and for Tuscany. In fact, we had a small office in Firenze because it was a big business for us in the sense that the wines from the south were very consistent at that time, at least in one thing: alcohol content very high, and structure, very high structure. So those kind of wines were like a sort of backup for the bad seasons. And anyway, it was a good idea for people in the Northern Europe, saying that France is north of Europe, but Central Europe, to have in the winery some stock of wines that are produced from our region. So this was, let me say, today, you would say the mission of the company. We have a large estate, saying 550 hectares, which is, I believe in acres, 1,400 acres. They are not all planted in vineyards because we have olive trees also. And we have three estates. So one of these estates, the Castello Seranova, from which you see the sighting tower of our estate, today we fully converted to organic cultivation. So we keep in mind also a sort of sustainability. Anyway, today the company is run by me as a frontman and with my two aunts, the sisters of my father, Vittoria and Maria Teresa. We started to bottle our first wine in 1971. It was a Brindisi Rosso Giusi. Okay, so this is geographically speaking, you can see on the top is the Adriatic Sea, and in the south you have the Ionian Sea, which is basically a very hot sea. It's very it's a sandy, so the underlining of the sea is sand, while on the Adriatic Sea it's mainly rocks. Here, so the microclimate. Obviously, since we are a peninsula, we are highly exposed to the winds. We have two predominant schemes in the winds: the wind that comes from southwest, that are hot and humid. Typically, there are winds that come from North Africa, and then the other wind, that is the one that I actually prefer, obviously for obvious reasons, is it's called the Tramontana, and it's a wind that comes from northeast, so it comes directly from the Balkans and from Russia. Therefore, this dualism is it's a highly characteristic. It's a good characteristic of this terroir, if you will. Obviously, for the vineyards and the wine in general, you want the winds from north to northeast. The winds from north-northeast create a perfect microclimate, very high ventilation, and keeps down the temperature. And also, it allows us to have a good delta between the day temperatures and night temperatures, which is not common for being so south. Here we can see the positioning of the three estates. The Castello Seranova. We have also the winery. Well, maybe we can go the soils. Sorry. Just one word on the soils. We have the main pattern is a soil that are clay and how you say in English, limestone and clay.
Yes,
limestone and clay. And within these our three estates, it's very interesting because the mix between clay and limestone differs, and we will see it further on in the presentation from the color of the soil. Therefore, we can give much more. We can give the vines react in a different way. So the first estate that we have, I believe, is a Flaminio estate, in which we have planted several Primitivo, Negroamaro, Montepulciano, Merlot, Chardonnay, and Berdeca. The Merlot and the Chardonnay are Chardonnay. We bottled the Chardonnay, and it's a very good seasonal wine, especially in the south of Italy. We have very good established market. And the Merlot is because we still produce more grapes than what we can bottle at the moment, or I think it will go on like this forever. And so we have also some international grape varieties because we work on projects for large co-ops or for other bottlers from the northern of Italy. Okay, so you see the winery is right in the middle of, almost in the middle of our 3 estates. And as you can imagine, we spend too much time in the car, up and down. It's driving. Okay, so this is the Flaminio estate. Going to the wines that we have today, here we produce the Rosato, the Vigna Flaminio Rosato that we have in the bottle, and the DOC red entry-level DOC Brindisi, which is again 100% negroamaro with 10 to 15% depending on the seasons, but we have a small percentages of Montepulciano. So the soil here is typically a balance of clay and limestone, where the limestone is slightly prevalent, and you can see it from the color when we move to Castello Seranova, which is the soil is much more red. So this is a simple cordon. Yeah, okay, we can move on. Yeah, so exactly. Sorry, the Castello. I don't know who is managing the presentation. Probably Catherine or Tim. Can you go one slide? Can you go back from one slide, please? Thank you. So here we are. This is the Castello Seranova estate. We have 300 hectares here, and the interesting element here is that we are within a national state reserve. So we are in a perfect environment for our agriculture activity. We are organic. We decided to be organic in this company very quick because we wanted to comply within the guidelines of the natural state reserve. Thank you. It was just this. Okay. So this is a cordon of Susumaniello. And this is it's a picture that I took yesterday, Sarah, because we are planting more Susumaniello. So this is the stage 1 of the plants that have been planted in April and May. So when it comes to the soil differences, you can see how red it is, meaning that the clay percentage is it's superior in respect of the Flaminio estate. The clay and all the minerals are higher in this case. We are able to do good wines, very good wines in some cases, in some years. The point is that when you have this soil is very tenacious, so it's you need to be experienced and you need to know when you get into the vineyards what kind of work you do. When you go with the machineries, you must be careful not to be too heavy, you know, in order to not compact too much the soil. So this is just some elements on the soil, and obviously this soil influences our products.
I think then we're on to the next slide. Yes.
So this is our third estate that is called Iore Estate, I-O-R-E, Iore Estate. In this estate, we only have negroamaro. And in this estate particularly, we produce Graticciaia. So, well, in this case, we have here we have much more limestone than clay, and you can tell by the color of the soil. The negroamaro that we have here, we have obviously new parcels, meaning new planted parcels, because we need to be productive in our area. we are extreme heats. The plants must be in good shape, but also we keep the old way of training the plants, which is the alberello. Instead of cordons, these are sort of bushes. Bushes that you can work only by hand. Well, the point is that the bushes, respect of the cordon, have several advantages. First of all, the plant is not stretched from the green part of the plant is not very, very highly developed. So the plant, in my opinion, may focus much more in nourishing the fruit than expanding its vegetation. And on the other hand, the grapes and the fruit are exposed to the sun basically every day, because you will never get into shade since you don't have a cordon that projects the shade. So it's more balanced, and to end. This is a very old parcel from 1941. And let me say, this is a very, very low yield per plant. So our economics are highly negatively impaired by this dynamic. But again, this is a special wine. It's our duty to keep on with this kind of production. We go to Graticciaia very quickly. So Graticciaia, it's a special production that we produce maximum 20,000 bottles per year, and we do not produce them in, we only produce them in the best years. You know, so for example, 2014, just to be close, when it was a year that it started raining in May and it ended in September, that year, no Graticciaia. So what is about the Graticciaia? It comes exclusively from these old parcels, obviously hand harvested, and then we put the grapes on these straw mats that are called graticci within our, let me say, culture tradition. On this graticci, they will remain this way for 20 to 25 days outdoor. You see here you have the Adriatic Sea, and the wind comes this way, comes from the tree down. This is a perfect setup to dry slowly, but again, obviously we are not in a warehouse, so we are exposed to the sun. It's something that we are very proud of, because you see we have at least 4 plateaus, and the plateau are shifted. So the lower plateau every 2 days is shift up, and the one that is up goes down, in order to be more homogeneous possibly to the environment, external environment. This year, we were the first company that sun-dried in Puglia. And by the way, Graticciaia, it's a dry red wine. So yes, we have some sugar residual. It's a natural sugar residual. It can be estimated on average around 8 to 7 grams per liter. So it's there, and it's quite a lot. But again, it's still a dry red wine, and you will not feel the sweetness when you drink a Graticciaia, but the residual is there. So the idea came from, because, you know, in the south of Italy, you have the tradition to dry the fruit and the vegetables in order to preserve them for the winter. So at one point we said, okay, why don't we apply this tradition to our work, to our job? And we came out with this idea. Obviously, we were trying to mutuate also some experiences that you have, like the Sforzate della Valtellina or Reboro in Trentino, obviously Amarone from the Valpolicella, even if those are warehousing, but again, there's nothing bad with warehousing. So we were quite confident that the result that we would achieve would be positive. And in my opinion, with indigenous grape varieties, you can do this successfully only with negroamaro, not with primitivo, because you need the skin must be thick. You don't want a skinny, a slight skin, and you need to have grapes that are able to be resilient. Even if you take away 30% of the water, these grapes are still, you know, they're still able to tell you something. Like the Corvina or Rondinella, whatever they use, or the blend with Amarone, it's there. They've selected the correct grapes to do this kind of activity. It's an IGT Salento. It's an IGT Salento, so it's not a DOC. And before being an IGT Salento, it was just a Vino da Tavola, because we were going every time Eurotura out of stock. So people coming to us and saying, why don't you do DOC? Why don't you do IGT? But that wasn't the point. The point was to be free to experiment and to bring innovation in our region. And I think that we achieved this result, because if you look today, it's full of wines on the shelf of the supermarkets, you know, a Passimento from Puglia, a Passimento here, a Passimento there. So I believe that we contributed to a sort of evolution of our wine scene in Puglia and in Salento. This in the 80s, I think we achieved this, and this is, for us, it's important. We are glad. Today, Puglia, it's totally another region compared to the 80s. I understand that Puglia wines are especially mainstream. I understand this, but again, it's a good industry that is working very well in our region, and we are glad for this.
Yeah. And then I think we have a slide with all of the wines on it next.
Ah, yes.
Yes, so we've got Graticciaia that you've wonderfully given us a description of. And I hope that some members have tasted it, because we usually every year about this time have an Italian tasting where we can take the wines to members across the country. And you've often joined us, Francesco. And of course, Graticciaia is always one of the wines that members talk about most after tasting.
Yes, yes.
But would you mind going through the other 4 wines that we've touched on in terms of their vineyards and the grape?
Of course.
But just to give a little bit of the difference.
Let me start as order of structure from the rosé wine. So the rosé wine, it's the same blend that we have in the DOC red wines. So these 2 wines, the first one moving from my left to right, the first 2 wines are the same blend. So 85% negroamaro and a little bit of Montepulciano. So the rosé wine is we have 3 rosé wine within our portfolio. This is the traditional one. You may appreciate the color. It's not really like a Provence. It's not it doesn't have the color point of a Provençal. Anyway, because this, we want to keep, we want to stick with the tradition within this wine, meaning that when we harvest, we do not put the grapes in the press, but we put the grapes in the tanks, the same tank that we use for the red wines. And what happens? From that point, we evaluated the colors. You give us 12 to 18 hours, and then we separate the liquid from the grapes, because the grapes falling into the tank, they crush, and you have we are able to extract the liquid, the most, not still fermented, not yet fermented. But again, with this procedure, you have the good color. And why I talking about tradition? Well, because at this point, the grapes that are left in the tank are used for what we call salasso. So for a concentrated red wine that we will keep aside and we will disseminate in our batches according to our needs. So this is, it's not very efficient. It's not very efficient because you have a redundancy in cost. You have a redundancy in enological interventions, and you need more space because the liquid at the end, you need to ferment it. So you will need to occupy another tank and you will need to give some other code. So, it's all, if you have a specialist.
There are easier ways of making rosé. This is not one.
But again, for this rosé wine, we do like this.
Yeah.
I am in love with this product because it reminds me the summer. You need to come to south of Italy if you want to go to Spain, whatever. But the summer, the sea, the wind, and the possibility to have, as I said, barbecues. If you don't want to eat meat, you don't want to eat fish, it's okay. You eat pasta. This wine is a gourmet wine. I really love this one. So moving to the DOC, this is a Brindisi DOC. It's a negroamaro based wine. Yes, exactly. It's the second one moving from left. And it's an everyday wine. It's well balanced. You can also drink it for aperitivo. We use it also for aperitivo. The classic pairing is with some meat or with pasta or with potatoes, smashed potatoes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sync with your everyday dish. So lamb also.
Oak use on this, Francesco?
Excuse me?
Are you using any barrels with this?
Yes, sorry. It's very important. We use large Slavonia barrels, 50 hectoliters, meaning that it's 5,000 liters. And there are barrels that you need to apply for the DOC, but it's a very quick step. I think 2 to 3 months, not more. And then we go into stainless steel and cement because we still have old cement vats that we refurbish it, and we prefer cement. So we have a enologist, a consultant enologist, and she's in love with cement. I hate them because every 2 years I need to go there and do incredible things, because they're delicate, more delicate than stainless steel, obviously. So no, allora, for the Riserva, we need to do at least 6 months into large vats. Here we do a very quick stint. It may occur, but basically this wine you're transmitting without putting gatekeepers, so no wood, etc. The tradition of the negroamaro basically is this, and this is an everyday wine that I would suggest. Obviously, it's, I don't know. Can you say it's a value product?
I've just seen a note on the chat. The cement that we're talking about is concrete vats that are often lined, and it's a wonderful alternative to a stainless steel vat because it doesn't impart flavor, but it does seem to soften a wine, which I imagine is what your enologist loves.
Yes, exactly. It's a very stable environment and very resilient to temperatures because it doesn't transmit temperatures. So the wine is stable. I must say to all our friends, I am so concentrated in talking in English, and I hope I'm not talking bad, that I see there are questions, but while I'm talking, I'm not able to reply. I will reply.
No. And Anna and Catherine are looking at all the questions, I believe, and sorting out the order, and we'll get them in a minute.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit more about the Reserva.
Reserva, okay, so this is a Salice Salentino Reserva. It's a totally traditional wine with a modern twist. Don't expect to see your grandma wine with this. It's a modern wine, balanced, but again, it's a traditional wine. Here we have 6 months of large Slavonia barrels. So they are like these barrels that no one purchases anymore because they're so big. And they have a stint of 6 months, and after this they stay at least 12 months into cement, so concrete beds. Yes. And then they go to the bottling procedure. I must say something. This is very personal, so I mean I'm not dictating a rule of thumb, but according to my experience and what I want to apply always in our company, I don't like the wines where you identify clearly the taste of wood. I believe that the wines shouldn't taste of wood. Then I understand that sometimes in the US they like that vanilla taste, but I really think that you need to be, in our company, we avoid absolutely to have wines that have predominant wood taste, because at the end, you put the wines in the wood in order to accelerate oxidation and to sort of grant a longevity to the wines. No, you are exposing the wines prematurely to the oxygen. This is the idea of using the wine, of using the woods. So why I'm talking to this, because I appreciate the large Slavonia barrels, because they don't release any kind of scent of wood.
Yes, there's no sweetness of vanilla or coconut or anything like that on the wine.
Coconut?
No.
We are from Puglia.
In Puglia, perhaps some more commercial Puglian producers are making quite heavily oaked wines, which have quite a lot of that coconut and vanilla.
Yeah, no, but
these are about the fruit.
Yes, Sarah, maybe it works commercially. It has a sense, and after all, we are a company also. No, people need to. But I would like to resist to this temptation. I really would like to resist to this temptation. I don't care if in the US someone says, "Oh, Mom, I don't like it." It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, there are different wines for different people, but we appreciate the fruit-forward nature of these.
Exactly. So in the last 5 to 6 years, I must say that the request from market, people that are competent, that they know what they are doing, the request is more and more on the fruit side, trying to extract more fruity. And on this we are working. It's not a change of mentality. It's just now it's a real paradigm. I mean, in the past, these kind of ideas, they were not there. And in the last years, and I believe it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because the wines must be approachable. You need to approach the wines, and you need also to have this kind of emotions.
Yeah. Speaking of the flavors, because we're comparing two different negroamaros when we look at the Amino and the Salice Salentino.
Yeah, well, let me say.
How would you compare the two?
Okay, well, I must say one is a DOC Reserva, the Salice Salentino is Reserva, and the other one it's a entry-level DOC, simple DOC. I must say that so we are in two slightly different leagues, but in the Vigna Flaminio you have a little bit of Montepulciano, and the intent of this Montepulciano is trying to add a little bit more of acidity. Then today I must taste the wines that we have in front to understand if this difference today with these wines is noticeable. But well, so the Vereto should be more structured. It's and the Vigna Flaminio DOC entry level should be more easy, more pleasant, more easy to drink.
Yeah. For me, the DOC Flamino has this lovely red apple and tart red berry fruit flavor. It's lovely and bright, very easy drinking, whereas usually the Reserva has slightly more structure, as well as a little bit more perhaps darker fruit flavors.
Darker fruit, yes.
Coming in.
But because what do you think, Sarah? Could you give some fruit on a Reserva? I believe Reserva has a different objective, no? That is not to bring on a fresh fruit, but rather, as you said, black fruit, deep red fruit.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, these are the two differences.
The slightly older style of the wine, so being 2016 at the moment, it's starting to show a little bit of that spice, a little bit of savory character coming through. I also think there's something sort of more mineral about it, a little bit darker in that sense. But no. And then before we move to questions, we mustn't forget Castello Seranova.
Castello Seranova is a special blend of Susumaniello and negroamaro.
Yes.
Well, the bottle today has we have a custom-made bottle. Today this wine comes with a custom-made bottle, but it's okay. It's a slight differences. Anyway, it's a blend of Susumaniello and negroamaro, and we use the wines. They're harvested in different periods, because the negroamaro is ready at half September, while the Susumaniello has an endemic problem with sugar, in the sense that it's very low. It's not able. You need to help him to have full sugar to hit the target before harvest. So what we do on the Susumaniello, we do a first harvest that consists in not cutting, but in breaking the connection between the bunch and the plant. Breaking this connection, you basically, sorry, it's very hot. You basically freeze the technological and the condition of the grape, the chemical relation between acidity and pH. Because if you keep it linked with the plant will go on nourishing. The bloodstream of the plant will push the maturation. A never-ending story, this. So we cut the stream, the bloodstream of the plant, in order to freeze the physical conditions. And we live on the plant for 10-15 days, looking forward to achieve an evaporation of the water, therefore to have a more concentrated and at the end a higher alcohol content, because the Susumaniello has this problem. Call it a problem. I mean, it has this particularity.
Yes.
we harvest in two different periods, and they are blended only when they go into the tonneau. So let me say 2 or 3 days before rotating the tonneaus, we perform the blend, and then from that day on, they will stay together forever. It's a wine that makes 12 to 15 months tonneau, and then it goes into stainless, into concrete cement. So let me say today, I don't know what you have. We have a 2014. I don't know what you have on
2015.
2015, but take into account that it's a wine that has a good longevity and that we keep into the winery at least for 4 years before going to sell to the sellout. So it's a wine that it had different changes. The first vintages of this wine, the company had in mind to do a taglio bordolese, so to be really like a Bordeaux wine, no? Because that was the idea. But at the end, the market and people close to us all over the world, they were saying, "Ma Vallone, ma what you do? You come from Puglia. You need, you know, give some color to this wine. Give some sun, some, you know, this." So today, it's a wine that tries to translate the richness of our soil, of our sun, of our weather. It's a wine that might, to the more purist of your friends, of your clients, might sound a little bit strange in the first impact, because it's very rich, very high structure. At the end, must be always, because from Vallone, elegant, long-lasting, dynamic finish in the mouth. So this you have, but it's a wine that is very, very warm. Let me say this.
So fantastic. It's been very popular. We've been selling the 2015 quite recently. We've had some lovely. So it's to see that members are embracing a slightly curious blend, because of course not many people come across anything other than negroamaro or primitivo from Puglia. So it's wonderful to see that it sort of captured the imagination. Thank you, Francesco, for going through those wines. And for members out there, all of the wines we've spoken about tonight are available online. So do fill your boots with whether it be rosé or cases of Graticciaia, go for it. But Anna, I can see you on our screen, so I presume this means it might be question time.
It is. Sarah, I wish my budget would stretch to cases of Graticciaia. I think it's probably all I would drink throughout winter if I had chance. It's certainly, you mentioned earlier, in the real world of tastings, we do often show it at the Italian growers tasting, and it is always the wine that has the flock of people crowded around it at the end of the evening. So if you haven't tried it, I would personally and professionally actively encourage it. Francesco, to start, you have just been talking about Susumaniello. So we have had a question, and I apologize, pronunciation of both grape variety and this gentleman's name. Robert McNeely has emailed in saying, do you feel that Susumaniello is a grape in the ascendancy? So is it increasing? Is it rising in popularity? And does it have the potential to become a prestige fine wine of the region?
Yes, it is growing. Well, just look at the data. Okay, you had at the beginning of the century, so 2000, you had, I'm not joking, you had probably 10 hectares planted in our region. Well, first of all, it's a very indigenous grape variety that is local. It's local from the north of Brindisi. Today, I think, I'm not exaggerating, probably you have 2,000 hectares planted of Susumaniello. So clearly, it is a wine that had a good commercial and productive pattern growth. So, well, why this? Well, because local companies, me, but also our colleagues, other colleagues, did a good job on the Susumaniello, both in rosé wine, both in the red wine. Why all this production? Because also the northern bottlers, you know, the very big bottlers from the Veneto, for example, Botter, that they do millions and millions of bottles, they procure and they call us every time we do contracts to sell them Susumaniello, because they want to complement their Puglia offering. So I believe that today, when you talk about Susumaniello, you are talking about a grape that is officially among the highly recognized Salento indigenous grape varieties. Coming to the potential. Allora, for example, you have a very high reputed enologist that is Cottarella. Everybody knows Cottarella has like a sort of Italian superstar enologist. And his interpretation of Susumaniello is it's a wine that it's very dense, very dark, with a lot of wood, good sugar residual. So overall, it depends on the interpretation that the winery wants to give to the grape. I must say, personally, we have an important Susumaniello, and we are working on an important standalone Susumaniello. We need time, but we are working on it. But also we bottle a Susumaniello we have we have a product category that is called varietals, that are single vineyards, single variety. And in this product category, we do not use wood, and there is no sugar residue. No, and the intent is to say, listen, these wines are all made the same. The only change, the only difference is the grapes. No, negroamaro, primitivo, Susumaniello. And also in this case, I can see that Susumaniello is a cool wine. I mean, I like it. Take into account those slightly differences that you have when you need to harvest. No, you have this problem that the sugar content stays low at a certain grows, and then it doesn't make, you know, the last mile you need to work for her, you know, doing this kind of first harvest. But I believe also that from a genetic standpoint, we will be able to correct this let me call defect. I don't know if defect is correct in English, but we will be able, from a genetic standpoint, probably within generations, to correct these anomalies. So to answer to, by the way, he's Scottish with that surname, right?
I think so, yes.
I love whiskey, I love salmon and smashed potatoes. But I believe, to answer to the question, yes, it has a good potential. And anyway, Susumaniello it's officially an indigenous grape variety, like negroamaro, like primitivo.
Fantastic, thank you. So it sounds like we should all be keeping our eyes open for Susumaniello more and more. Fantastic. I think John Hughes hopefully is going to be able to answer his own question. He hopefully has been unmuted, but possibly not.
I have.
Hello, John. How are you this evening?
Good evening. Very well, thanks.
Ciao, John.
Hi, Francesco. Great listening to you. Just the question was really, what are the key things you consider when you're deciding when to harvest the grapes? What are the things that matter most at that time?
Allora, you do an analytics, so you want to see the acidity. Well, you have two phases. The first phase we call it's the technological maturity, meaning when the grape is fully ripped, and when the seeds inside are fully dark. So they became, we say in Italian, legnificato, meaning that when the seeds are like wood. So this is the technological aspect. But you do analysis, you do analytical analysis, and you want to check, first of all, obviously, the sugar content. You know, you have a scale, the Babbo scale, and if you are not at least at 2020, 21, you don't consider to harvest, at least in Puglia. The other aspect is acidity. If you see that within 2 days, the acidity is lowering a little bit, it depends also on the objective. What do you want to do with the wine? You want to do a rosé wine, you will harvest a little bit, and you will anticipate the harvest because you need acidity. No, you need the freshness, and you don't want to add acidity, tartaric acid in the vineyard, in the winery. It would be not a good idea. You have the first phase, that is a technological maturity, and the second phase is the phenological maturity. And the phenological maturity is the most important, and you consider all the chemical elements that are within the skin. Because one must know that what is important in a grape is not the pulp, because the pulp is just sugar and water and protein and fibers. No? What you need is the chemical substances that you have inside the skin. You have the proteins, you have the anthocyanins, you have the flavors, and the tannins also. Sorry, John, sorry, I'm not a very schematic, especially in English, but you have two phases: technological maturity, phenolic maturity, and the elements that you look at are sugar, acidity, and pH. Basically, the pH, when you overreach the maturity, the pH will grow and the acidity will go down, and this is terrible if you want to do a good, long-lasting one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that
Great.
was a great answer. Thank you, Francesco. Very thorough. We have had quite a few questions. So I'm just looking now. We've had Ian has asked, saying he's been on, done Pugliese cooking in Lecce and London. Tim Nuding has asked what food is best to pair with Graticciaia. I wondered if you might, Francesco, be able to talk through each of the wines and perhaps give a traditional pairing, and then also perhaps a less traditional Italian pairing that you know, might be a bit more experimental for people.
Anna, I am in trouble because one of the traditional dishes here is the horse. Would you ever consider to eat horse?
I think a lot of us did by accident a few years ago, but
but you recognize the taste, you know, because it's like, anyway, it's chewy. Yes, sure. So, according to that, I'm a big fan of aperitivo, no? Because you go out of the office, it's 7:30, aperitivo, it's very easy. So, for the Vigna Flaminio, traditional dishes you asked, yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Great.
So I would say, come si dice, seafood?
Yes, seafood.
Shellfish.
Yeah.
Shellfish, like clams, and the black one. How do you call the black ones?
Mussels.
Mussels.
Yeah,
Yes. Cooked or even raw, if you are sure from where they come from. And here it's a tradition; you can eat them raw. And also, I say it in French, les oursins, I ricci di mare, oursin. You know, it's like a ball.
Okay, sea urchins.
Sea urchins, bravissimo. Yeah. Also, let me say, if you want to be very refined, you can take some sea urchins, as you said, with 2 or 3 spaghetti, and you eat. With this wine, you will get like a lord, English lord. Then, well, here you have. Allora, this is an everyday wine, so an everyday dish. Allora, for us, you know, we have our cuisine is very much based on vegetables and on pastas and on fish. But on this, you can have a pasta with cime di rape. Cime di rape is it's a very tasty vegetable. I'm sorry, I don't know the English name. Next time I will prepare myself.
I think it's
Will has said turnip tops.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Or also, if you want, okay. Or if you are in central London and you want to eat some, I don't know, what do you eat in central? Everything in the world.
Yeah, everything's available. But
yeah,
I've had this recently with aubergine, and it was delicious.
Molto buono, with the aubergine, bravissima. This is perfect. Yeah. Or if you want to go on some ham, cured ham, like lotta or prosciutto di Parma, prosciutto di San Daniele, this would be suitable. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
Allora.
Making everyone very hungry, Francesco.
This, my friends, with the horse.
The reserva with the horse. I thought you would be going octopus.
Octopus also, yes. Well, horse, because I like to be a little bit provocative, you know, because you want an indigenous dish, horse. No, with the octopus also it's very good. And there is another very interesting thing, is like snails. You know, we have snails that are cultivated. We call it them municelle. They are very small. They are not like the French escargot. No, they are smaller than the escargot, and they are very good. Cholesterol goes rocket sky, you know, goes north, but it's perfect. So a traditional dish, obviously, Sarah says un polipo impignata. This means that you take some, how you say, like terquit. How you say?
The octopus tentacles.
No, yes, but how you cook them? You know, the clay
to heat them in
yes.
the clay oven.
Clay, yes, in the clay oven with some mussels. And then some potatoes, and you put some wine on top. White wine would be better. And you close. You make them slowly for many hours. Slowly for many hours. And then this would be a perfect dish for this wine. Perfect dish for this wine.
Yeah.
So for the Castello Seranova, you can. So the meat that we are not a high land of meat. You have some lamb, obviously, during Easter time, because it's the tradition. But otherwise, the meat that we have, like the steak that we have, come from a typical cow that is called the podolica, and you find in Valle d'Itria. But they walk so much, you know, and they eat so. that they are so thin like this. But anyway, the meat from the podolica is very interesting. And you could pair, if you come down in Puglia, you look for a steak from Mucca podolica, and you will be delighted. And this one, you need an edge on that meat, and this wine can give you that kind of edge.
Yeah.
Sarah is stronger than me. I want to provoke a little bit, but it's also the truth. This, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or whatever you have like penchant in your life, just with your friends. Okay. And with a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay. And this, you are like, it's more than enough to otherwise, obviously, you go on the cheese.
Yes.
Very edgy cheese, greasy cheese, but
yeah.
It's not our tradition, I must say. So this you can find. It's also
with good company
and on chocolate.
Yeah,
I have often wondered what I would pair it with. You know, we're fortunate enough to have it at our walk around tastings where you do just enjoy a glassful. So yes, I think a bit of dark chocolate on the sofa would be quite lovely. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Francesco. I'm hoping we have another member ready to ask their own question. Hannah, are you unmuted?
I think so. Hi. Hi, Francesco.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you.
Hannah, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you, Francesco. I'm so glad that you're on this evening because it gave me an opportunity to open your Flaminio, which I've had in my rack for a bit, and it's very hot in London where I am at the moment, so it's been a really great excuse to open it, and it's absolutely delicious. But I was just wondering, you obviously choose to label it as Brindisi DOP as opposed to, for example, Salice Salentino. Is that because of the strict appellation rules, or is that your own choice, given that obviously it's mainly
the strict appellation rules? The Flaminio estate is in the Brindisi area. So, or you go with an IGT Salento, and I'm fine with that. Or otherwise, you have a DOC, and you need to apply with all the rules of the DOC. The DOC of Brindisi. So we couldn't do Salice Salentino in the Flaminio estate because even if from the map you say, listen, it's very close. I know, but it's another DOC. So we couldn't overlap the two appellations, or we couldn't cross the appellations within our estates.
Okay. Thank you.
It's very hot in London.
It is. It's getting hotter all the time. I'm wondering whether to actually start chilling. I mean, I guess also, like you were saying earlier, I think the Vigna Flaminio would actually work chilled as well, quite nicely.
Chilled, yes. It's it's a good idea to drink red wines a little bit, not more than 18 degrees Celsius, but I don't know in Fahrenheit how much it is. But hot wines, red is not good.
Yeah. Sorry, Francesco, I was going to interrupt. Hannah, I'm also in London and feeling the muggy heat here. And I did exactly that. I put the Vigna Flaminio Rosso in the fridge for an hour a little bit ago, and it's been warming up nicely, but it was lovely to take the edge off it initially. I think also when we chill some red wines, you can always get a little bit worried that you'll over chill them. But as soon as you have them in your glass, you can warm them up just with your hand. So there's no, it doesn't go that wrong that often.
Easier to warm it up than it is to cool it down with your own body. So right, I'm going to squeeze in Francesco, if it's all right. We have a pair of questions I'm going to put together, and we have one more question after that. The pair of questions are around the Graticciaia wine. So the first question is from Leah, who's unable to ask herself, but she was wondering if the birds enjoyed the grapes. Do they eat any of the grapes whilst you're drying? They do?
No, they do, but we cover the grapes, and we go there 2 times per day, us from the company, to do sampling, because we want to know exactly the grape, the sugar, the weight loss, everything. And we have people that are all around 24/7. So because when it rains, we need to cover. Then in the morning we uncover in order to avoid the moisture. So the birds actually could enjoy, but us, no. since we are.
They don't get chance.
It is a risk, obviously. Yes.
And another quick question on Graticciaia, if it's okay. Peter Cousins asked how you say that it's only produced in the best vintages. How regularly, for example, per decade, how many times might you produce Graticciaia?
Per decades, we basically shift. We jump to at least 2 years. We don't perform. Okay. But listen, we are going through it's obvious the weather is changing, no? So we are also thinking to add to our terraces, and I don't know if I showed you, Sarah, when you came last time. I really don't remember, but we are adding a sort of a sponge room, a sort of a compensation room where we need to harvest at a certain time. For the Graticciaia, we harvest at technological maturity. We don't go all the way to the phenological maturity because we need acidity. So when it's time to harvest and it's raining and you harvest, and we put the grapes, and we are putting the grapes in this compensation room where we freeze them, almost freeze them, in order to go on the terraces when the weather is fine. So we skip 2 years on average, giving a decade, but I expect us to be more flexible and to have a mix of options when it comes to this wine, because otherwise we would be at risk.
It would be a very hard wine to produce with increasing temperatures.
It is, if you want to keep. Yes, it is. It is. We want to stay on this way. We want to stay on this trajectory. We don't want to change anything, but eventually we want to have the opportunity to stock the grapes. No, to wait, because if it's raining, and the grapes are okay, because before it didn't rain, I don't want to, I want to try. So we are trying to add some options to our production method.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Now, before we wrap up, I have one more question. I would just like to remind everyone, if you did want to join Monday's session, we do have a series of events next week. Monday's session, we do have the lovely Sarah, who's going to take members through some red wines with Emma and Catherine alongside an antipasti board, and has one of the Vallone wines, the Salisalento, that Sarah's saving, as you can see there. So if you would like to join that, we've got that on Monday. And exclusive for members who are joining this event, we also have Saracen wines joining us on Thursday, but we haven't even put that on the website yet. And then we have Jean-Marc Vincent of Burgundy and Toby Morale, our Burgundy buyer, on Wednesday. So we have a jam-packed week. Please go and look at the website and get booked in. But I saved one particular question to last, Francesco, because we have had a few members ask, and it's a question that I'd like to know the answer to as well. And that is, do you take visitors to the estate, and when can we come?
Oh, you can come whenever you want. We will take care personally. Our staff, we don't have yet, we don't have yet a staff dedicated to the incoming, but we will take care of it, because each customer is like is very important to us. You understand, when you go into the vineyards and you say, listen, this grape is traveling all over the world and is going on the tables of people. It's people that trust us, buy our wine, and this wine is made from this specific soil. Look on the map. We are so far away. It's incredible. We are a family. We are not an industry. We run farming activities overall. So each one customer is very important to us. Touch base through the traditional channels. If you are a member of the Wine Society, please go through them, and we will certainly find a combination.
Fantastic. So for anybody looking to visit Puglia, I have been to Puglia before and have to say that I absolutely adored it. So I will hopefully be returning and knocking on your door, Francesco, to say hello with an email first to check that you're there.
Yeah.
I apologize quickly to members. I got my dates the wrong way around earlier. As I just mentioned, next week's tasting, we do have Saracen on the Wednesday and Jean-Marc Vincent of Burgundy on the Thursday, but they will be on the website for you to look at. There should be a little poll for you now to let us know whether you've traveled to Puglia before and whether you hope to. I know certainly which one I'll be clicking of those boxes. But it is without further ado that I have to say an enormous thank you. Thank you to our members for joining us this evening. It is a warm evening, perhaps not the perfect evening for Graticciaia, but I wish I'd had a glass of the rosé, and the red is slipping down a treat. Thank you to Sarah for joining us this evening. She's had a very busy schedule, and we're delighted that you could be here to join us, Sarah. And then a huge thank you to Francesco. This time of year is such a challenge for winemakers.
And sorry giving you bad time. I gave her the presentation 10 minutes before. She was like, what do you do? What do you do?
Not at all. You have all the knowledge, so the pictures are just an extra. This is what's important to hear.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure for me. Thank you, Sarah, Anna. Thank you very much. Thank you to Tim, and thanks to all the members that took the time to participate to this webinar. Thank you.
A wonderful evening. Cheers.
Have a lovely evening, all.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. See you all.
Cheers.